The first of the Galactic Vanguard's warships appeared in Earth's orbit like silent harbingers of doom. Stretching miles across, their hulls shimmered with alien alloys that refracted sunlight in dazzling colors. To the billions watching from below, it was as if gods had descended from the heavens. But these gods did not come bearing peace. Humanity's first encounter with the Vanguard began not with diplomacy but with terror. In a small desert town in Nevada, a strange object had been discovered weeks before the invasion. Scientists from all over the world were summoned to examine it. A sleek metallic artifact buried beneath layers of rock and soil hinted at technology far beyond human comprehension. Its silent heartbeat of something otherworldly. The artifact was transported to a secure facility for further study. And that's when everything changed. Dr. Eliza Morton, a brilliant astrophysicist and head of the project, was the first to decipher the patterns emanating from the artifact. The signals, though faint and fragmented, hinted at an intricate web of information. A star map. One particular system stood out, marked in bright pulsating light. It was a system humanity had only just begun to chart with their most advanced telescopes. But before they could act on their discovery, the signal changed. The artifact began to broadcast on a wide frequency, sending waves of energy into space. For days, scientists struggled to shut it down, fearing it might attract unwanted attention. Their fears were well-founded. Less than 2 weeks later, the Galactic Vanguard arrived. The world watched in stunned silence as the warships descended from the sky. Broadcasts from the invaders soon dominated every screen, their voices a blend of incomprehensible tones translated through synthetic English. The message was clear. Earth was to be assimilated into the Dominion's vast empire. Resistance was futile, they said. The notion of humanity's weapons being a threat to their advanced technology was laughable. Primitive, one of the Dominion's commanders sneered during a live demonstration. A hulking insectoid creature stood in front of a camera, holding an M4 rifle that had been confiscated from a human military base. With a flick of its mandibles, it crumpled the rifle like paper, tossing the scrap aside. "Your weapons are as effective as twigs against the winds of a storm." The world's militaries tried to fight anyway. Tanks, jets, and missiles rained hell upon the invaders. But the Dominion's energy shields absorbed it all without a scratch. Cities fell like dominoes, and the remnants of humanity scattered, hiding in forests, mountains, and underground bunkers. Amid the chaos, Dr. Morton and her team worked tirelessly in their hidden laboratory. The artifact that had brought the Vanguard to Earth was their only hope of understanding the invaders. It wasn't just a beacon, it was a key, a piece of their technology left behind either by mistake or design. Morton believed it could unlock a way to fit back. "We're running out of time," she said one evening, her voice strained with exhaustion. The lab's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows on her face as she pored over streams of data. "Every city they take means more lives lost. We need to find out what this thing can do." "Eliza, you've been at this for 48 hours straight," said Dr. Raj Patel, her second in command. "You need rest. The team can handle it for a while." "Rest won't bring back New York," she snapped. But the guilt in her eyes betrayed the weight she carried. She sighed, rubbing her temples. "Fine, but wake me the moment you find anything." Her scowl deepened. That night, the breakthrough came. A young technician named Hannah managed to decode a fragment of the artifact's transmissions. It wasn't just a star map. It was a detailed blueprint of the Vanguard's fleet. Each ship's weak points, their energy sources, and even the composition of their shields were laid bare in the data. It was a gift, a lifeline for humanity, if they could figure out how to use it. If they successfully put it in practice. Miles away in a remote mountain cabin, Jack Hawk Morrison watched the invasion unfold with cold, calculating eyes. A retired sniper, Morrison had once been the deadliest marksman in the U.S. Marine Corps. He had spent years in the shadows, taking impossible shots in impossible conditions. But this time, the enemy wasn't human, and the odds were unlike anything he'd faced before. Morrison had retired to the mountains to escape the noise of the world, but the war had found him even here. He'd resisted the urge to intervene, believing it wasn't his fight anymore. But when he saw the destruction of his hometown on the news, something inside him snapped. The Galactic Vanguard may have mocked human weapons, but they hadn't met someone like him. His cabin became a makeshift war room. Maps of the alien landing zones were pinned to the walls, alongside notes detailing troop movements and gaps in their patrols. In the center of the room lay his sniper rifle, a Barrett Mighty 208, lovingly maintained despite its age. It wasn't the cutting-edge technology of the aliens, but Morrison knew its power wasn't in its mechanics. It was in the man behind the trigger. A knock at his door startled him. He reached for his pistol, but relaxed when he heard the familiar voice of Sergeant Olivia Park, a former squadmate who had sought him out after escaping a Dominion-controlled zone. "You're still alive, Hawk?" she joked, stepping inside. "Barely," Morrison replied with a smirk, pouring her a cup of coffee. "I take it you didn't come all this way for a reunion." "Ah, the old questions," Morrison whispered. Heron's expression turned serious. "We've got a chance to hit them where it hurts. Intel says their ground commander is stationed at their forward base near Denver. Take him out, and we disrupt their entire chain of command." Morrison's eyes narrowed. "You realize their shields make conventional attacks useless. How do we get past that?" said Jack. Park handed him a small device, a prototype jammer salvaged from a Dominion scout ship. "This will disable their shields for 60 seconds. It's not much, but if anyone can make that shot in a minute, it's you." He studied the device, his mind already calculating distances, angles, and wind speeds. 60 seconds is all I need, he said. Back at the lab, Dr. Morton's team was racing against time to decode more of the artifact's secrets. Every discovery felt like a small victory against an overwhelming tide of despair. But the artifact also hinted at something darker, a reason why the Vanguard had come to Earth. Hidden within its data was a warning, a fragment of a message in a language no human could understand. Morton's instincts told her it wasn't just about conquest. "This isn't just a war for territory," she muttered, staring at the alien symbols. "They're looking for something." "What do you mean?" Raj asked, leaning over her shoulder. "This artifact, it's not just technology. It's a beacon, yes, but it's also a warning. Whatever brought them here, it's bigger than us. Bigger than them." Before Raj could respond, the lab's alarms blared to life. The Vanguard had found them. End of story. The Galactic Vanguard's arrival was no accident. It was inevitable. Beneath the surface of Earth, buried under millennia of soil and stone, lay the artifact that had unknowingly signaled their approach. For humanity, it was a relic of wonder. For the Vanguard, it was a beacon, a call to arms, to claim what they believed was theirs. Dr. Eliza Morton hadn't intended to be humanity's last hope. She had spent her career studying distant stars, charting the unknown, and chasing the possibility of life beyond Earth. When her team stumbled upon the artifact during a geological survey in Nevada, she thought it would simply be a breakthrough in xenotechnology research, a chance to prove that humanity was not alone. Instead, it became the center of a war for survival. The artifact's design was unlike anything the team had ever seen. Smooth and metallic, its surface was etched with intricate patterns that pulsed with a faint, otherworldly light. It emitted a constant low hum, like the distant resonance of a tuning fork. At first, it seemed inert, But as soon as they began probing it with instruments, the artifact awoke. "We've triggered something," said Dr. Raj Patel, one of Eliza's closest colleagues, as the artifact's light intensified. The team's instruments went haywire, registering energy levels off the charts. "Whatever this thing is, it's alive in some way." The artifact began to transmit signals, complex patterns of energy that defied immediate understanding. Eliza and her team worked around the clock to decipher them. Days turned into weeks as they pored over the data, slowly unraveling its secrets. What they discovered was staggering. The artifact was a star map, a guide to distant systems. But one system in particular was highlighted, its coordinates pulsing in steady rhythm. "It's pointing us somewhere," Eliza murmured, staring at the map projected on the lab's wall. "But why?" Before they could investigate further, the artifact began broadcasting on a wide frequency, sending a pulse of energy into the cosmos. The signal was impossibly strong, resonating far beyond the solar system. That's when Eliza knew they had made a grave mistake. Weeks later, the sky over Nevada was filled with fire as the first Vanguard warship entered Earth's atmosphere. It was unlike anything humanity had ever seen, an enormous vessel that seemed more alive than mechanical. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, shifting and changing as it descended. From its underbelly, smaller crafts emerged, spreading out like a swarm of insects. The world's governments scrambled to respond. Jets were scrambled, and missiles were launched, but the Vanguard's technology rendered human weapons useless. Their energy shields absorbed everything, and their counterattacks were swift and devastating. Within days, major cities across the globe were under Dominion control. Eliza and her team were relocated to a secure underground facility, tasked with finding a way to use the artifact against the invaders. It was their discovery, after all, that had brought this nightmare upon the world. But the deeper they delved into the artifact's mysteries, the more they realized it was not just a piece of alien technology, it was something far greater and far more dangerous. "This isn't just a map," Eliza said one evening, her voice trembling. She had spent hours decoding a new set of transmissions from the artifact. "It's a warning." "A warning? A warning of what?" Raj asked, his brow furrowed. Eliza turned to face him, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "A warning of what's coming next. The Vanguard aren't just here to conquer us. They're here because they think we've found something they lost, something they're willing to destroy us to reclaim." In the remote mountains of Colorado, Jack "Hawk" Morrison listened to the news of the invasion with growing anger. He had retired to his cabin to escape the noise of the world, but the war had found him even here. He watched as city after city fell, powerless to stop it. For weeks he stayed in his cabin, resisting the urge to act, but when he saw the footage of Denver being overrun, the city where his daughter had lived before her death, something inside him snapped. Morrison dusted off his old gear, his hands steady as he assembled his rifle. The Barrett Mighty 208 had been his weapon of choice during his years as a Marine sniper, and it had never let him down. He checked the scope, the magazine, and the trigger mechanism with practiced precision. He didn't know how he was going to fight the Vanguard, but he knew he couldn't sit by and do nothing. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. He reached for his pistol but relaxed when he saw who it was. Sergeant Olivia Park, his former squad mate, stood on the porch, her face grim. "You're still alive, Hawk?" she said, forcing a weak smile. "Barely," he replied, stepping aside to let her in. "What are you doing here?" "Looking for allies," she said, setting her pack down. "We've got a chance to hit them where it hurts, but we can't do it without you." "So much?" Park explained the situation. A group of resistance fighters had intercepted Dominion communications and learned of a critical target, the Vanguard's ground commander, stationed at a heavily fortified base near Denver. Taking him out could disrupt their entire chain of command. But the base was protected by energy shields that made conventional attacks impossible. "We've got this," Park said, handing him a small device. It was a prototype jammer, salvaged from a Dominion scout ship. "This will disable their shields for 60 seconds. It's not much, but if anyone can make that shot in a minute, it's you." Morrison studied the device, his mind already calculating the angles and distances. 60 seconds is all I need," he said. Back in the underground lab, Eliza's team was making progress. They had managed to isolate the energy signature of the Vanguard's shields, and they believed the artifact could be used to disrupt it on a larger scale. But time was running out. The Vanguard had begun targeting resistant strongholds, and their forces were closing in on the lab. "We've got to move this operation," Raj said, pacing the room. "If they find us, it's over." Eliza shook her head. "We're too close. If we leave now, we lose everything we've worked for." The debate was cut short by the blaring of alarms. The Vanguard had found them. Soldiers and scientists scrambled to evacuate as Dominion troops closed in on the facility. Eliza grabbed the artifact, its surface glowing brighter than ever, and stuffed it into a protective case. She and Raj barely made it to an escape tunnel before the lab was overrun. As they emerged into the night, the mountains around them lit up with the glow of Vanguard ships. Eliza clutched the artifact tightly, her mind racing. They had uncovered the truth, but it had come at a cost. Now it was up to them to ensure that cost wasn't paid in vain. In the hills overlooking the Vanguard's Denver base, Morrison lay prone with his rifle, the prototype jammer clipped to his belt. The snow muffled the sound of his movements as he adjusted his position, lining up his shot. Through the scope, he could see the alien commander, a towering figure surrounded by armored guards. "Hawk, do you copy?" he whispered into his earpiece. "Loud and clear," she replied. "You've got 60 seconds once you hit that jammer. Make it count." Morrison activated the device, and the shimmering shields around the base flickered and vanished. He took a deep breath, steadying his aim. He exhaled slowly, squeezing the trigger. The bullet traveled at supersonic speed, cutting through the thin mountain air. It struck the commander square in the chest, punching through its armor and shattering its central core. For a moment, the icy chill of the mountain wind swept through the barren terrain as Jack Hawk Morrison adjusted his scope one last time. The barrel of his Barrett Mighty 208 glinted faintly under the moonlight. From his vantage point, the alien base below seemed like a mechanical hive, bristling with advanced weaponry, glowing energy conduits, and troops moving with unnerving precision. Somewhere in the heart of that base was their prize, the Vanguard ground commander. Morrison's heart beat in measured rhythms as he synced his breathing with the crosshairs of his scope. Around him the world was silent but alive with tension. His earpiece crackled, breaking the stillness. "Hawk, we're ready to deploy the jammer," said Sergeant Olivia Park, her voice low and steady. "Just say the word." He took a moment to study the shimmering dome of energy that surrounded the base. The Vanguard shields were impenetrable to all conventional human weapons, but the salvaged jammer, a piece of their own technology, could briefly neutralize it. "Deploy it," Morrison said. The device activated with a faint hum, sending out a pulse of alien energy. For a split second, nothing happened. Then, the shimmering shield around the base flickered and vanished. The guards below immediately reacted, their movements more erratic, scanning for threats. As a pouch of light flashed and fell with a burning corsage, the device activated with a faint hum and vanished. 60 seconds, Olivia's voice reminded him. Morrison's finger rested lightly on the trigger as he exhaled, aligning his crosshairs with the alien commander. The creature stood over 10 feet tall, encased in sleek insectoid armor that pulsed faintly with a greenish light. Its head turned slightly, as if sensing something. Morrison adjusted for the wind, recalibrated his angle, and fired. The rifle's report cracked through the air, and the bullet flew true. It struck the commander dead center in its chest, punching through its armor and sending it sprawling to the ground. The vanguard troops froze in shock before chaos erupted. "Target down," Morrison confirmed, already dismantling his rifle. "Olivia, get the team out of there. They're going to retaliate." Meanwhile, in the underground resistance base deep within the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Eliza Morton sat hunched over a glowing console. The artifact, now securely housed in a reinforced chamber, pulsed rhythmically as if alive. Each pulse sent waves of energy through the room, causing the monitors to light up with streams of alien symbols. "We're decoding it faster than expected," said Dr. Raj Patel, his voice tinged with equal parts excitement and exhaustion. "This artifact isn't just a key, it's a guide. It's showing us how their technology works." Eliza leaned forward, her eyes scanning the data. The artifact's energy output had spiked in the last hour, likely reacting to the destruction of the Vanguard commander. She couldn't shake the feeling that the artifact was more than it seemed, that it wasn't just a tool, but a sentient entity in its own right. "What's the status of the signal?" she asked. Raj glanced at another monitor. "Still transmitting. Whatever it's broadcasting, it's reaching far beyond our system. If there are more of them out there, they'll know exactly where to find us." Eliza's jaw tightened. "We need to figure out what it's saying. If it's a warning, maybe we can use it to our advantage. If it's a call for reinforcements..." She trailed off, unwilling to finish the thought. Raj nodded grimly. "I'll keep working on it." Back in the mountains, Morrison and Olivia regrouped with the resistance team in a secluded cave. The operation had been a success, but the Vanguard's reaction was swift and brutal. A series of bright explosions illuminated the distant horizon as alien ships bombarded the area surrounding the base. "They're angry," Olivia said, watching the destruction through binoculars. "We hit them where it hurts." The two men were shocked. They scrambled backward. Morrison grunted, his expression unreadable. "It's just a small victory. They'll recover. They always do." "Maybe," Olivia replied, lowering the binoculars. "But for the first time, they're off balance. That's something we can use." As the group huddled around a makeshift table laying out maps and plans, a courier arrived from the main resistance network. He carried a sealed package and a grim expression. "This just came in from Dr. Morton," he said, handing it to Olivia. She opened the package and extracted a small device along with a handwritten note. The device was cylindrical with faintly glowing panels that pulsed in rhythm with the artifact. The note read, "At this time, this is a prototype derived from the artifact's technology. It's a disruptor capable of neutralizing Vanguard energy fields within a limited radius. Use it wisely." Morrison studied the device with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "If this works, it could level the playing field." "Or paint a bigger target on our backs," Olivia said. "Either way, it's our best shot." In the days that followed, the Resistance launched a series of coordinated strikes using the disruptor. For the first time, humanity's forces were able to penetrate the Vanguard's defenses, destroying key installations and reclaiming lost territory. Morale soared, but Eliza knew it was only a matter of time before the Vanguard adapted. Her fears were confirmed when the artifact's energy readings spiked again. The signals it emitted grew more complex, almost frantic. It was as if the artifact was reacting to the escalating conflict. "It's trying to tell us something," Eliza said, pacing the lab, "but we're running out of time to understand it." 7. Raj looked up from his console. "There's something else. The artifact's energy signature matches the core of their mothership. If we can tap into that, we might be able to disable their entire fleet." Eliza stopped in her tracks. "You're suggesting we use the artifact to hack their mothership?" "Exactly," Raj said. "It's a long shot, but if we can pull it off, it could end this war." As the Resistance prepared for the daring mission, Morrison found himself drawn into the heart of the plan. He would lead a small team to infiltrate the Vanguard's mothership and plant the artifact at its core. The mission was dangerous, bordering on suicidal, but Morrison's resolve was unshakable. "You've always been good at impossible odds," Olivia said, handing him a compact version of the disruptor. "Just don't make me regret putting my faith in you." Morrison smirked. "I'll get it done." The night before the mission, he sat alone by a campfire, cleaning his rifle. The flames cast flickering shadows across his face, highlighting the weariness in his eyes. He thought of his daughter, of the life he had left behind, and of the countless lives depending on him now. The weight of it all was almost too much to bear. But he pushed it aside. Tomorrow there would be no room for doubt. As the Resistance's stolen ship approached the Vanguard's mothership, the scale of the alien vessel became apparent. It dwarfed anything humanity had ever constructed, its surface a labyrinth of shifting plates and glowing conduits. The team's pilot navigated through the ship's patrol routes, relying on stolen codes to bypass its security systems. "We're in," the pilot said, his voice taut with tension. "You've got 15 minutes before they figure out." "We